Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to our session today, and really happy that you're able to join today's call. Before we dive in, we'd just love to know where everyone's dialing in from. Can you drop your country or your city that you're dialing in from? So just while we're waiting and trying to see where everyone's from, so I'm actually calling in from Ottawa in Canada. Tim, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling from Halifax in England and UK.
Amazing. So we have Minnesota. Anyone else? Where are you guys based out of? South Bend. Nice. Another person from Ottawa. That's amazing. Quebec, California. Great.
I'm
Texas.
looking for I'm looking for people from the UK. I can't see. Oh, got someone from London.
Nice. Very cool. So we've got a lot of international representation. So thanks so much for joining us today for From Tools to Transformation, Scale Smarter with the Right Tech Stack. We're excited to be partnering with Langcroft Consultancy in the UK, and together we'll look at how modern manufacturers can unlock growth by choosing and implementing the right tech stack at the right time. So really here at Katana, our mission is very simple, really, to help manufacturers run lean, flexible, and resilient operations. But here's the truth, tech on its own often doesn't create that transformation. So you need the right expertise to really make it stick. And that's really where Landcroft Consultancy comes in. So with their experience supporting scaling companies, they can help bridge the gap between tools as well as true transformation. So what we're going to be covering today and where we're going to be spending our time, first, we're going to kick things off with a couple of introductions so you know who we are. Then we'll do a little bit of background on Katana as well as Landcroft. And then we'll move into essentially the core heart of the session. So how to build scalable operations. We're going to share some tips, some examples, as well as some best practices that you can apply. And then finally, we'll end everything with a Q&A. So definitely as we go along, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A chat as they come up, and we'll be able to answer those live at the end of the call and as we go through. And with that, I guess let's get started. So we're going to kick things off with some intros. So my name is Kristen Salamu. I'm a partner manager here at Katana. I work closely with consultants, e-commerce agencies, and accounting firms to help them find the right inventory solutions for their clients. I've been in the SaaS space for about the last 18 years, both in sales and partnerships. And yeah, just really excited to be here with you today. Tim, I'm going to pass it over to you for an introduction.
Okay, thanks, Kristen. I'm the founder of Langcroft Consultancy, and I've spent all my working life in manufacturing and industry. I previously co-founded and owned a manufacturing company, and I have a passion for digital technology, especially how it can streamline business process. On a personal level, I hate paper, so digital is where I am at.
Amazing. Thanks for that introduction. So I'll tell you a little bit about Katana on this for the next minute or two. So we're a modern all-in-one inventory and manufacturing platform for product businesses that want essentially real-time visibility into inventory, production, and operations. I'd say what really sets us apart is how easy our solution is to use and how fast teams can get started, and also the measurable results businesses can see as well. So most of our customers are fully onboarded within 4 to 6 weeks. We actually support more than 1,500 businesses in over 70 countries across 75 different industries. And customers report things like a 21% increase in inventory turnover, a 12% reduction in stock levels, and even a 60% boost in year-over-year sales. We're recognized by G2, GetApp, Capterra, Software Advice as a leading inventory solution. So in short, Katana helps businesses move off of spreadsheets and disconnected tools into a centralized, powerful, and scalable solution. And now over to Tim. I'm going to hand it to you to give us a quick overview of Langcroft Consultancy.
Okay, thanks, Kristen, again. So I set up Langcroft to provide digital transformation advice to companies and organizations, mainly manufacturing companies who traditionally may rely on legacy systems, spreadsheets, people, paper to operate their business systems. So digital systems such as Katana can really help streamline the business process. Langcroft, we're UK focused and based, but we do have some manufacturing companies overseas, and we've even been as far as or spoken to and supported some clients in New Zealand as well. So we embrace anybody who needs help. We will try and help them.
Amazing. So now I guess let's move into the core of today's session. So how to build scalable operations. So scaling isn't just about growing, it's about making sure that your systems, your processes, and your teams can handle that growth without breaking, essentially. So we're going to go and share 5 tips with you, and we'll move into tip 1 right now. So tip 1, so first step is bills of materials or BOMs. So honestly, this is one of the biggest pain points that we actually hear about. So at first, managing BOMs in spreadsheets feels pretty simple, but it pretty quickly can become a mess, essentially. It's oftentimes complex, error-prone, and can be a huge time drain. In fact, actually 66% of Katana customers came to us straight from spreadsheets, and BOMs have usually been a big frustration point that's been raised. Tim, from your experience, why do BOMs become such a sticking point, and what should businesses keep in mind to manage them effectively?
Okay, yeah, BOMs, it really is a sticking point. I find that with a lot of clients. It's really information in people's heads. It could be in spreadsheets, it could be paper, and it's not well managed or not well documented. So when it comes to moving from spreadsheets or manual process and go into a system like Katana, what the chaos that can be is there's no actual documentation around the bill of material, and indeed it could be out of date as well. So that can actually create a bit of a blip in the project, and trying to pull together all that information, because BOM data for systems like Katana is really, really important. Conversely, customer and supplier data is probably easy to get hold of because it's probably going to sit in QuickBooks Online or Xero. People are actively engaging with them, they have records, and we can integrate them back into Katana. But the glue, should we say, the bill of material for how a manufacturing company would make something, and its profitability and its knowledge, isn't well known and well publicized, and that is a problem.
Thanks for sharing those insights. So in terms of tip number 2, this is all about integrations. So one of the fastest wins that we see when businesses start is with native integrations into their either accounting systems, their e-commerce platforms, as well as their CRM tools. And that's really where so much of the operational data flows, and getting those connected makes a huge difference. Tim, why do you think prioritizing native integrations is such an important first step? Do you usually, and just curious how you usually guide clients on essentially where to start?
Okay, my guidance here, or the tip knowledge put to feedback here to people is get the core tech stack in place initially. Get Katana there, get your account system linked QuickBooks or Xero, and by utilizing native integrations, a lot of the hard work's been done by the Katana tech team. So they've done all the integration hurdles, shall we say, and they've streamlined that process. So by going native, you're going to get up and running quicker. So you get those bill of materials, you get your company data, you link your Xero or QuickBooks. You've then got pretty much a core operational function which can process orders and pass that data into your account system. So that's the lion's share of most business processes is order management, process flow, and invoice and bill processing. So use the native apps. Don't try and do it yourself. You could do it yourself, but I would definitely recommend using native apps. Then I'd look at the next layer. The next layer to me is like probably look at your e-commerce, such as Shopify, that sort of thing. But before you do that, ensure that your main business process for using Katana and your accounts is working, and then the native integrations will help you do that quicker as well. They're optimized to do that. Of course, every business is different, but essentially, at the end of the day, every business has to process a customer order, invoice it, and deliver it as efficiently as possible. So you get the basics right and use the native integrations with Katana and QuickBooks and Xero, you're going to speed that process up.
Amazing. Thanks. Thanks again for sharing those insights. Just wanted to remind people to drop any Q&A questions that you have in the Q&A chat. Also, if ever you guys have some similar experiences to some of the experiences that Tim had shared, would love to hear about those, or maybe any issues that you've encountered. So please jump in and would love to hear more from the audience as well. In terms of tip number 3, so our third tip is really all about how you scale. So when businesses are growing, it's really easy to fall into the trap of trying to roll out too many tools or even process changes at one time. But really, the most successful companies we see take the opposite approach. So they start small and they essentially start scaling intentionally, which might mean adding one tool at a time, making sure that it's delivering value, and then really optimizing it before moving on to that next piece. This way, you can really ensure that your tech stack grows with your business instead of overwhelming it. And I guess, Tim, when you're working with manufacturers who are scaling, how would you advise them how to strike the right balance, growing their tech stack without overcomplicating their operations, essentially?
Very simply, don't do too much at once, because you will fail and you're going to create a massive headache. This is very much linked back to tip 2, where you get your core native functions in place first, your workflow, and then you move on your digital layer, operation. What do you do then? A lot of people obviously have EDI or shipping, and they want to put them in place. So I would look at core systems, then digitally start moving out the circle, the concentric circle. CRM's not an essential part initially, but for most sales teams, it's an essential tool. So get the core functionality up and running first. The other thing here is get your team happy with the whole app stack, using Katana, using QuickBooks and Xero and CRM. Get them happy using that. They will buy into that. They'll understand the functionality. Once they understand that workflow and they're happy and they're confident, then you can start looking at your next custom integrations, which is going to be API, middleware, that sort of thing, to really start to scale your business and start to maybe deal with some of the specific operational issues you need to deal with as a business, or actually you will need to increase or change some of your business outputs. And by looking at some of the API functionality of Katana, you can do that. But going back to point, start simple and then slowly scale up. Or if you try and do it all in one go, I'm not saying that's not doable. That's a very large project to swallow. So keep it simple in manageable chunks.
Great advice. So moving on to tip number 4. So this one is actually overlooked very often: change management. So the truth is the real friction comes when introducing new tools. It's not usually about the technology, but it's actually about the habits people have. So teams that are used to working a certain way, and shifting those actual habits takes time, but also communication and leadership. So if people don't understand the actual why behind the change and why it's happening, or don't feel supported, this unfortunately leads to adoption lagging. Tim, what strategies have you seen that work best to get teams on board with new systems?
This is a really good point, change management, because you are coming from legacy manual systems and processes that people have probably all been used to in your organization for 5, 10, 15 years. So you're dropping in a new digital tech stack solution will create headaches, and you need to manage that change. You need to bring people on board. So clearly, an investment into a digital system like Katana is usually from senior management owner decision. but it's really important to get shop floor staff and back office staff involved with that whole process, because at the end of the day, they've got to buy into the technology because they've got to use it, and you're going to manage that them and that process and how well they use it. So yeah, change management is key to pulling this together. So as part of this, at Langcroft, what we do, we strongly recommend that a review of the business process is done as part of the digital transformation project. It should be seen as an opportunity to modernize, and don't try and force legacy systems like you maybe have been doing 5-10 years and try and dovetail or shoehorn them into your new way of working. Think about how you are working, think about how you can change, adapt, evolve, and what benefits Katana is going to bring to the party, basically, and that should that whole approach and that focus should allow you as a business owner to have some confidence, but also more important for your shop floor team and your back office teams to really understand why you are bringing a digital solution on board. So, I mean, really, for my sort of like summary of that is, it's an opportunity to evolve and also engage with more of your team members, because a lot of legacy systems and maybe spreadsheets and paper aren't very good at collaboration or sharing information. So digital technology allows you to share information, to empower your team, to give them that data they need to maybe make better decision making, which ultimately will make your organization more efficient and more productive.
Really great advice, and definitely something that we hear of all the time. It's so important to really get everyone on board, and maybe even showcasing some of the time savings that they might be able to incur by utilizing a solution like this. So yeah, very important to just focus on that change management piece.
Yeah, very much so.
So in terms of our last and final tip, so it's really about don't try and do it all yourself. A lot of times it's very tempting to think that, oh, we'll just handle this internally. But a lot of times implementations involve complex workflows, integrations, and also change management that we just talked about. So it's really tough to get it right without some outside help. So working with the right partner or consultant, that can a lot of times save time, avoid any costly mistakes, and it really helps set you up for long-term success. Tim, in your experience, what tends to trip companies up when they try to handle this themselves, and how do you step back and get things back on track, essentially?
Okay, good questions. Basically, I see a lot of business owners. I think Katana is such a good digital tool. It is quite easier to set up than a lot of other systems. It's easier to use. So I think some of the pitfalls here, maybe business owners or senior management might decide that it's maybe they might be able to try and circumvent the whole project cycle of getting this on board and do some of the work themselves. The problem with that is they've also got a day job to do, so it can create speed bumps, as I call them, in the whole time scale of the project, where you may be dealing with someone on board, a business owner or someone senior in the organization, who's decided that they will do some of the work, maybe the integration, maybe linking it to Xero or QuickBooks, or doing some of the BOM data importing. They may decide to do that themselves, and that's fine if it's a small manageable and there's not many SKUs and it's quite a simplistic integration. That is fine. That's there. Obviously, they can do that. But I do see where it can grind to a halt and it can create frustration because things are not happening quick enough from the team. That whole change management, it creates that frustration where, well, we haven't got that connected yet and we need to do that and that hasn't been happened. So, I would advocate getting help from people like, a Katana partner like Langcroft, to really help out, to map out the project stages and to help put a time frame to them, and obviously help guide a core team within the organization who's doing the data or the integration, for example, or a partner may do that integration for you, working with your accountant. So there's lots of ways that you can speed things up and be more efficient in your approach. But and yes, there's a cost to that, but it's a known cost. Alternative is an indirect unknown cost, because the fact that you're not making that project happens quick enough, or Katana happen quick enough operationally, there's downtime to that, there's downsides, and that's going to impact your operation. So I would definitely recommend, as a tip really, if you need help and advice, ask for it, get it as quick as you can really, and to try and keep that project moving forward.
I think those are some really great points. Like you really like a lot of times business owners or even different stakeholders that are involved in doing these implementations, you can get sidetracked really easy with different
Yes.
projects that are coming in, a lot of different noise. So having a consultant really guide you every step of the way, make sure it's done properly as well, is just something, again, that'll help avoid any of those costly mistakes. And again, just ensure that people are adopting the solution pretty fast.
Yeah, and I think there's also can be misinterpretations of how maybe the integration would work and some of the data is required. And if that data is not there or put in incorrectly, then you're going to have to draw back and start from square one again. So it is important. So it's all part of that whole process management, really, project management, the whole job, making sure you know what information you need. Just to recap here, bill of materials, very important, and how you integrate and the native apps you integrate with. So to streamline that whole project, the old expression, line your ducks up accordingly.
Perfect. And so here on this slide really highlights why we're here together. So at Katana, our focus is again on building the best possible platform for inventory and manufacturing. But like we said throughout this session, software alone doesn't create transformation. It's really how you implement it and how you apply it that makes the actual difference. And again, that's where Langcroft comes in. They help manufacturers select the right tools for their growth stage, implement Katana with all the best practices in mind, bring their own expertise into the discussions as well, integrate Katana with Shopify, QuickBooks, Xero, and many more, and really guide that change management so that teams adopt with confidence, essentially. So together, this really creates a very powerful combination. Katana powers the tools, giving manufacturers that real-time visibility, the automation, and the scalability. And Langcroft essentially makes them work in the real world. So bringing deep expertise in manufacturing as well as operations. And really the result that we see with customers that we jointly work on is faster setup, fewer mistakes, and just real transformation, not just new software.
Correct, yeah, very much so. I would definitely echo that. I think the other thing I'd like to quickly mention is that Katana, one of the good things I love about Katana is it's always evolving. There's always new features coming on board. So I think this is, again, ask for help on this, because through Katana partnerships, and we can maybe interpret some of the features that have been put on the roadmap and put through. And because the partners maybe evaluated that, we can provide you quicker answers and how it could benefit your own operation.
Amazing. And that brings us to our Q&A. I know there's a few questions in the chat that have been posted that we're going to get to, but again, really want to hear from you guys, see if you've experienced some similar situations. Maybe there's some questions that we can help you out with, or even some additional best practices we can share. So definitely please drop them and we'll answer them live. So a couple questions that we've gotten from the team and the audience. One question came from Dawn in terms of, Tim, this is a question for you. What is a ballpark dollar figure a company should expect to spend with a consultant to get a tech stack working for them?
That's a big question, isn't it? I can't give you a dollar figure, but we try, and it all depends on the organization, the workflows, the complexity. So it's all down to maybe the number of days and hours required to pull together a tech stack. If you've got quite a simplistic business operation, you may be looking at 2 or 3 days, just to help guide you, pull that together. But if you've got much more complexity, then it's case by case, I think, is the true answer to that. So if people want to reach out and, something where we could look at and give a bit more information about what's behind their business, because a lot of people like say, oh, we want to go to a digital system, but kind of neglect to tell us how many people are involved in the shop floor and how many people want to engage with a tablet and the work to lists and the feedback is required, and they're all really useful bits of information that's required. Some people may be swapping account system as well. I've had them before where you think you're going in, they're going to use QuickBooks and they might have changed to Xero, and that's the last minute curveball. So my point here is lots of variables here. So it's not an easy question to ask. It's a great question to ask, but sorry, not an easy question to answer, but it's a great question to ask. And I hope that's cryptically answered it as best I can.
Thanks for answering that question, Tim. I guess another question, maybe you can share, what was one of the most rewarding transformations that you've seen after helping a client implement Katana?
Okay, that's a good question again. And the one example, well, there's several, but one good example always it sits apart from all the other ones is I've got a client who have been using a legacy system with a lot of spreadsheet and paper support to run. They're a small manufacturing company, and they were heavily involved with that operation. They were part of that process. The problem is when they went on holiday or when they went to an exhibition to try and sell their products, the organization suffered because they weren't there to interpret, to make sure that paper was handed out, the Excel spreadsheet was updated, the legacy system on premise didn't work. So one of the sort of things I really, really look back on is the fact that I introduced them to Katana. They're using Katana. That allows them now to take a tablet, an iPad, for example, or a laptop, and they can be in Europe, they could be in Australia, they could be an exhibition. They are still actively and operationally involved with their business, but because they're using Katana as a single source of truth to see what sales orders are coming in, what manufacturing orders are actually in process, what's been invoiced, that before would have been a phone call or would have been lots of emails back into a key member of the team or various people of the team, or indeed a lot of it would have been shelved until they got back into the office, which is not a great start to their new working week. By using Katana, it gave them the confidence to see exactly finger on the pulse what's happening with their business from wherever they were in the world. So to me, that pays for itself, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great story and a really great example. Going back to the chat in terms of some of the questions that were asked very earlier on, there was a question that was asked in terms of what makes an integration native. So essentially what makes an integration a native integration is it's essentially an integration that's already pre-built that Katana has pre-built for you. So it's really just a matter of going into your Katana account, accessing your integration marketplace, and then you'll be able to configure the data points or the mapping of the data essentially. So that's a native integration. There are also custom integrations that you can build. We do have an open API that you can leverage, and you can work with a partner that can help you build that integration, where you can, if it's for example, a solution that we might have not integrated with yet. So as long as the other solution has an open API, we have that ability to integrate the two solutions. Okay, going back into the chat, is it possible to automate Katana to close manufacturing orders? So those are automations that can be potentially handled through our API. So in terms of kind of more of a custom integration, so that's something we could definitely support in terms of connecting you with one of our partners that helps with building custom integrations, and they can look into seeing what they might be able to automate for you with some more customizations. Another question that we got from the chat is, what's the difference between a consultant and or onboarding fee that's offered directly by Katana? So there's two different options that we essentially offer when it comes to onboarding. So one of them is Katana does offer guided onboarding. So we have essentially implementation managers that will assign to work with you. They're going to guide you through the entire process in terms of getting set up with your Katana account. So this is more of a guided approach where they'll help you and point you in the right directions and in terms of getting everything configured and set up. Working with a consultant is another option that you have. So if you have very complex workflows, use cases, a consultant can essentially manage the entire process for you in terms of helping you implement that, and I'll let Tim actually speak to that as well in a second, but that's really the core big difference. Is guided onboarding would mean we have an implementation manager that guides and supports you through that process, whereas an actual implementation partner can take that workload off and really help you configure it. Tim, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I would just echo that. I mean, a partner such as myself and Langcroft has a lot of experience in industry manufacturing, and they may have the more of a project management type remit where they want to go in and deep dive into your business and understand some of your workflows. So it all depends what a client wants to do. If they want to go Katana and have a guided experience and do a lot of the work themselves along with a bit of hand holding, or if they want to have more of a consultancy experience where a lot of that work is possibly done for you, and maybe some of the questions are raised about why would you want to do that, or why not look at a different way of working. It's just a bit more of a broader experience, I guess.
And I guess one more question. What advice would you give a business leader that's worried about their team that's kind of resistant to moving off of spreadsheets?
Okay, again, a good question. I think my answer to that is businesses change. Business models change and adapt, and customers and supply chains change. The world changes. Look at tariffs. We all know about tariffs at the moment. So I think you need to have a dynamic, accessible, single source of truth system like Katana that business teams can quickly and easily review and update from anywhere. That's really difficult with a spreadsheet. That's more locked down. Sharing it's quite difficult. Updating that information and making sure that information is right, is correct. So really, for me, moving away from spreadsheets and going to systems like Katana, it provides an opportunity for better team engagement and empowerment that will hopefully drive your business forward, because you're giving people access to one single source of truth, which will adapt.
Amazing. I see we have one more answer, Q&A question, and that's one that came earlier. I know one of my colleagues submitted a response. It's a bit of a longer one. I'm going to try and summarize it. This is a question from Natalie, and she says that they often have large sales orders with over 100 material line items. Sometimes they may have 99% of the required materials in stock, but occasionally, especially for rush jobs, they may be missing out on one or two items. Currently, they process orders in batches to cover customers who have already purchased from them, making it challenging to push individual items up in priority without impacting other customer orders. So the question is there an opportunity to temporarily allocate or borrow those one or two missing items so that they can complete urgent orders without disrupting the overall allocation process? So one point of functionality that we do have is when you're on the sales order screen, you can see all of your demand essentially on that screen and all of your orders. Let's say you have that really important rush order that came in recently. You do have the ability to reprioritize that. So pushing it up in the queue and setting it as essentially pulling it up to the top. What that does is it actually reallocates any ingredients, any kind of items that you have in stock to that particular customer. And it essentially flows through the entire system in terms of the workflow. So reprioritizes everything in terms of tasks that people have to work on, and again, ingredients that need to be purchased or reallocated. So it is something that you can do within the platform itself, but in terms of customizing it a little bit more, definitely something that would be worth speaking to Katana about, as well as potentially maybe a partner that might be able to drive some additional automations as well, depending on your requirements. Any other questions before we wrap it up? So I think we've answered most of the questions, or all of the questions that came up in the Q&A chat today. So definitely wanted to thank everyone for spending their time with us today. We really appreciate it a lot, and we'll be sending a follow-up email out as well. It'll include a link to a recording from this session today, and also give you the ability to rewatch it or share it with any team members. You'll see 2 QR codes here on the screen. So one of them is to book a demo with Katana, and another one to book a demo or meeting with Langcroft Consultancy. We would definitely love the opportunity to continue the conversation and really explore how we might be able to support you in terms of scaling your scaling business journey. So on behalf of Katana and Langcroft, thank you so much. We wish you a wonderful rest of your day and appreciate your time today.
Thank you.